You know, there's something you come across every single day, but I bet you never really think about it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this invisible art, the art of translation. And you'll see it's way, way more complicated than just swapping out words.
Okay, so why are we even talking about this? Well, because when translation goes wrong, it can be pretty memorable. Just look at this. This is a real menu item, literally translated from Chinese. And while roasted husband is what happens when you just swap words, right? You're not thinking about the meaning behind them. It's pretty clear there's got to be more to it than just opening a dictionary.
And that really brings us to the big question here, doesn't it? If it's not about just swapping words, then what is translation? What is a translator actually doing?
All right, so here's the official definition, and it really gets to the heart of it. The key phrase to pay attention to is rendering the meaning. See, it's not about the words, it's about capturing the idea behind the words. It's a mental activity, a thought process, not just some mechanical task.
And this idea? This is the absolute bedrock of good translation. A translator's #1 job, their main loyalty, isn't to the individual words on the page, it's to what the original author was trying to say. Think of it like this. The words are just the truck, but the meaning, that's the precious cargo it's carrying.
Okay, so how do they actually find that meaning? Because let's be real, it's not always obvious. The first big challenge for any translator is that they have to become a kind of detective. They've got to look at the text and crack the author's code to figure out what they really meant. I mean, just think about your own conversations every day. When you say something, are your words always a 100% literal expression of what you're thinking? Or is there usually something more going on just beneath the surface?
This is a perfect example. When someone says, "Correct me if I'm wrong," are they really asking you to correct them? No way. They're basically saying, "I know I'm right." The source material for this explainer calls these loaded words, and if a translator misses that subtext, they miss the entire point of what's being said.
So you see, the translator has to be that detective, constantly asking, okay, what's the real intention here? Is the author trying to convince me of something? Are they trying to apologize? Are they being critical? Figuring out that intent, that's step one for any good translation.
All right, so once the translator gets the meaning, the next puzzle is finding the right voice. Because it's not just about what you say, right? It's all about how you say it, that level of formality. And linguists have a name for it. They call it register. And register is all about context. I mean, you don't talk to your best friend the same way you'd write a cover letter for a job, right? And here's the tricky part. What's considered polite or formal in one culture can be totally different in another. This is a huge trap that a lot of less experienced translators fall into.
Oh, this is a fantastic example of what we're talking about. This French phrase here, it's a totally standard, super formal way to end a business letter in France. But if you translated it word for word into English, it would sound, honestly, kind of weird and way too personal. So the correct translation isn't about matching the words, it's about matching the function. And in this case, the function is just a simple sincerely. Okay, so we've got hidden meanings, we've got finding the right tone, but what about when you run into a word or a phrase that just doesn't have an equivalent? Like it has no home in the new language. This is where we get into the really tricky stuff, translating idioms and slang.
And when you hit one of these, the golden rule is super simple. Do not force it. I mean, trying to literally translate "it's raining cats and dogs" is just going to leave people scratching their heads. So what's the alternative? Well, it turns out that professional translators have a whole toolkit just for this problem. They've got a few really clever strategies for dealing with these so-called untranslatable phrases. Let's check out a few of them.
All right, strategy number 1. You know, sometimes the easiest solution is the best one. If you have a word that's super specific to one culture, think about the word yuppie back in the 80s, you can just keep it. You just import it directly into the new language because the word itself carries all that cultural baggage with it.
Okay, here's another great one. Instead of translating the words, you find a local saying that has the exact same meaning, even if the words themselves are totally different. So in English, we say "speak of the devil," right? It means the person we were just talking about showed up. Well, in another language, the equivalent might be something like "the wolf is at the door." The images are different, but the function? Exactly the same. And then there's this strategy. When all else fails, you just explain it. Plain and simple. So instead of hunting for some clever idiom that means a bit over the top, you can just translate the basic meaning.
Like in French, you might just say un peu excessif, which literally just means a little excessive. Yeah, you might lose a little bit of that original flavor, but you make absolutely sure the meaning gets across. So let's recap. We've seen the challenges. You've got to crack the author's code, you've got to find the right voice, and you have to figure out what to do with untranslatable stuff. Which brings up a really important question. What kind of person can actually do all of this? Because it's obviously about more than just being bilingual.
In fact, one of the sources we used for this explainer lays out 12, that's right, 12 core principles that make a translator truly great. Now, we're not going to go through all 12, but we can boil them down to a few key qualities, the things that really separate the good from the great. Here's the bottom line. A master translator isn't just one thing. They're a unique mix of an expert, an artist, and a detective. They need that deep language mastery, not just words, but the rhythm and flow of the language. They have to be that cultural detective who gets the history and context. They have to be a creative wordsmith, finding not just a matching word, but a matching feeling. And maybe most important of all, they have to be totally in tune with their audience, making sure the translation has the exact same impact as the original. You know, when translation is done really, really well, you don't even notice it. It's completely invisible. The translator's voice just disappears, and you feel like you're hearing the original author speaking directly to you. It's this seamless bridge connecting cultures and minds. It's an art form that's at its best when you can't see it at all. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time you're reading a book from another country, or you're watching a movie with subtitles, just pause for a second. Think about that invisible artist who made it all possible. Whose voice are you really hearing? The author's? The director's? Or is it the masterful, hidden voice of the translator?